Okay, we will call to order the regular meeting of the Batavia City Council for Monday, October 15th, 2018. I'd ask that you please rise for invocation to be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Tonight, as always, we have gathered here to make decisions on the future of our community, and we are entrusting that each member of the City Council will search their minds and their souls for the best vision and understanding and decisions as they affect our community. As always, we want to remember those from our community who are serving in defense of the liberties of the United States of America on foreign soil. And we just ask that a special blessing be showered upon each and every one of these men and women as they go about their vital mission. Also, we want to remember all those within our city staff who are daily on the streets of our community, defending our community from crime and responding to the various emergencies, both on the police and fire and ambulance arena. And we just ask that a special blessing be showered on them as they go about their vital missions of work. Tonight, we just ask for a blessing upon our community, knowing that we are entering the fall season, we have entered the fall season, and that we have in the months ahead to look forward to hopefully what will be a joyous holiday season for our community. We ask for all these blessings. Amen.
Amen.
Alderman Rosado, would you lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the city clerk to please call the roll.
Brown.
Here.
Rosado.
Here.
Atack.
Here.
Stark.
Here.
Chancet.
Here.
Wolf.
Here.
Salvati.
Here.
O'Brien.
Here.
Callahan.
Here.
Meitzler.
Here.
Malay.
Here.
Ewer.
Here.
Cerrone.
Here.
McFadden.
Here.
Let the record reflect that all 14 members of the City Council are present and accounted for this evening's meeting, so we obviously have the necessary quorum to conduct business. Moving then to item number 4, items to be removed, added, or changed on tonight's agenda. Alderman Atack.
I don't have anything this evening.
I know in the audience we have several folks who are planning to speak during matters from the public, so we'll be with that here in just a few minutes, and hopefully I recognize everybody that I think I know is coming to speak, but anybody else that wants to, we will allow that to obviously take place. Okay, item number 5 is the administration of an oath of office by the mayor to Sergeant Matthew White, who has been promoted in the Batavia Police Department. And Chief Ewell, you want to make a brief introduction to this?
Certainly. Let me just tell you a little bit about Sergeant White. He was selected for promotion to the rank of sergeant on October 2nd to fill a vacancy created by the retirement of Patrick Worley. Matt joined the department in 2001 after serving a tour of active duty as a sailor in the U.S. Navy. Since joining the department, he served in a variety of roles and positions, including patrol officer, detective, school resource officer, and most recently the patrol officer in charge of the day shift. His personal awards include a 2010 certificate of recognition from the Alliance Against Intoxicated Motorists for his efforts to combat drunk driving in Kane County. In 2016, Sergeant White received the department's life-saving award for rendering first aid to an unresponsive person who had overdosed on heroin. He's also trained as one of the department's crisis intervention team officers. Matt also reminded me on a personal note that I was actually his primary FTO when he first joined the department, so in spite of that, he's had some career success. Sergeant White, since his promotion, has been reassigned to the midnight shift, and he says he's loving every minute of it.
You came in early tonight.
He sure did.
All right, Sergeant, if you raise your right hand and repeat after me. I state your name.
I, Sergeant Matt White,
Having been appointed to the position of sergeant on October 2nd, 2018, with the Batavia Police Department, in the city of Batavia, in the counties of Kane and DuPage, do solemnly swear and affirm that I will support the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the State of Illinois, and I will faithfully discharge the duties of sergeant to the best of my ability. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Okay, item number 6, which is presentation of tonight's consent agenda. Alderman Atek.
The consent agenda reads as follows. Accept and place on file Historic Preservation Commission minutes for September 24th, 2018. Plan Commission minutes for July 18th, August 1st, and August 15th, 2018. September 2018 building reports. Approvals, October 5th, 2018 payroll in the amount of $914,590.27. Accounts payable check register in the amount of $5,112,707.76. City Council minutes for October 1, 2018. Strategic Plan, Resolution 18-114-R, authorizing the purchase of one police department unmarked administrative vehicle for $28,249. Resolution 18-113-R, authorization to execute a contract for 2018-2019 snow and ice removal services with Snow Systems, Inc. for the amount not to exceed $75,000. I move that we approve the consent agenda as presented.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Atek, second by Alderman
McFadden.
McLaren. Okay. I
McFadden.
couldn't tell. Your voices sound the same, and I couldn't tell who had done it over there. So, McFadden, did you do it?
Yeah, I did.
Okay. All right. We have a motion second. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Atek.
Aye.
Stark.
Aye.
Chansett.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosado.
Aye.
Motion's approved. 14 yes, no no's, none absent. Okay, moving to item number 7 is matters from the public for items not on the agenda and before. I know we have several organizations that want to speak. Do I have any citizens that want to address the council on any matters of business? George, I'm going to recognize you, so just sit still for a moment. I want to make sure we didn't have somebody that had other business. All right, the first one then I'll recognize is George Sheets, the Executive Director of the State Library.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. George Sheets, Director, Batavia Public Library. For almost 14 years, which actually astonishes me. It's been a wonderful 14 years here in Batavia. Many of you lived in Batavia when the library was built. Can you believe it was 20 years ago this year that the referendum passed to build that building? Can you believe the building is almost 17 years old? We still call the new library inside the library, but we recognize that it's not quite as new as it was. I know many people's homes are newer than our library is right now. Because of that, a little over a year ago, the library board decided to become more formal about our long-term maintenance and repair plan, and we commissioned a capital asset study. We now have a capital asset plan that was accepted last October, in fact, by the board, that identifies all of our needs over the next 20 years of the building and the site. And the cost over those 20 years is $5.1 million in today's dollars. In the first 5 years, it's recommended that we spend $2.8 million on various higher priority needs, such as a roof in the next 4 or 5 years. And many of you are aware that we replaced the parking lot recently. That was the number one worst rated item in the study, and now we have fixed that particular issue. On the heels of the capital asset plan, the library decided to approach the community more directly with a community engagement initiative. And so from February to May, we held 4 community engagement sessions off-site to encourage people to come who who may not have may thought we had more issues to bring to them in the library, so we met on the school grounds. But we had some fantastic input from the community. They were a very successful series of programs and dialogue with members of the community. And out of that came 13 recommendations related to a variety of issues in the library, relating to what we should continue to do, what we should think about not doing further, technology, collection services, property, that sort of thing. And one of the recommendations was to look at our funding. And it just so happens that in December of this year, we're making the last payment on the bonds that built the building. And that tax rate is 7 cents. And one of the recommendations from our community engagement sessions was to consider asking the voters to redirect that 7 cents from the library's tax rate for construction to the library's tax rate for operations. And the library board decided to pursue that particular initiative. And then I'm here just to address the city council and the community on this particular project. The library is visiting the other local governments this week to do the same, partly as a courtesy and partly because we want to make sure that we feel it's our job to provide information the community needs to make an informed decision, and part of this is that part of that effort. It is my great hope that everyone received one of these in the mail recently. The page 3 talks much better than I'm probably explaining it tonight exactly what the referendum is all about and how the money will be used, primarily over the course of time for the building and site. And I also handed out prior to the meeting, and there's extra copies for the audience on the side table, a set of questions and answers, and also frequently requested facts about the library, and the ballot question, and those kind of issues in our budget. Our budget is 95% property tax. The library board is the type of unit of local government that does not have bonding authority, so the voters pretty much have complete control, if you will, over what the library does financially. And so this seemed like a good opportunity to approach the community with that question. So if you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Any questions?
Otherwise, thank you for your time.
Your Honor, I'd like to say I think it's a opportune time for you to do this, and the point I'd make is that maintenance dollars are a lot less expensive than replacement dollars, and so I think this is a good thing you're doing because maintenance has to be done with everything. So
Thank you.
I would definitely support this.
Thank you very much.
And I'd just like to recount a moment of history. 20 years ago when the referendum was approved to, maybe it was 21 years ago, to build the library, that was a highly controversial situation. There was a lot of people that did not agree with it. There was a lot of people that had varying ideas. There was sentimentality about the old high school involved in the discussion. A couple of you may have been with me on the council here, and you weren't here yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
I was here.
You were here, and we had some folks that originally were going to tear it down or convert it into a senior citizen community, and then that idea went by the wayside. And then the library came forward, and we were able to do this very unique land swap that started with the Bethany Lutheran Church buying the McQueen School, and then the McQueen School was bought by them, and then the school board took the money and bought the old library from the library, and then the library then took the money and made a payment to buy the old school from the school. So there was a pile of cash that went around the corner there and kind of chased itself, and that was, as I remember, the major down payment that helped the library buy the property and get that whole thing into force. And it really ended up being a beautiful moment for Batavia, because when you walk in there every day now, it's between 800 and 1,000 people are in that library. It's become one of the #1 anchor tenants in downtown Batavia for bringing people and business, and just all the education and curiosity and tech support that it now provides this town is I don't know if you can put a value on it. So it was a magic moment that occurred that not everybody agreed with, but anybody that was opposing it now, I don't ever hear them say anything bad about it. So I think it really is a testimony to Batavia putting its best face forward and taking a step of progress. And I certainly would highly encourage this approval of this referendum, because I think to maintain the quality of that building and maintain its presence in our town as doing all the great things it now does, I think to the credit of George and his staff, having a nice facility like that, we've got a great combination of both human and physical talent in that building up there that really do Batavia proud. So I would strongly encourage support for this referendum.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you.
Thank you for your time this evening.
Okay, now do we have the Batavia Historical Society Depot Museum folks? Dan, did you want to make some comments?
I was not aware of being on the agenda. I'm here with the Rotary for the.
Oh, okay, all right. Well, I thought you're such a face on the Depot Museum. I thought I'd get a couple free minutes for them if you wanted it. So feel free to come back anytime with another story, if you will. So. I knew you and Tom were here for the Rotary, but I didn't know if you wanted to throw anything in on the museum or not.
We did raffle off at the Clark family estate one of the few remaining bricks.
Yeah, come up and use the mic. Use the mic. Yeah, I'm sorry.
Thanks. We did raffle off at the Clark estate, which was a benefit for us this past weekend. During our auction, between 4 and 5, one of the items we auctioned off was a brick from the old high school. Now, it didn't fetch what we thought it would, but somebody bought it for $20, which was great. I wish we had more, because I'm sure a lot of people kept them as souvenirs. In fact, my wife and I have one in our home, and it's a wonderful doorstop. So thank you, Mayor, for letting me say a few things.
All right, I think there's nobody else in the audience then that I can see that wanted to speak, so we will then go to Batavia Main Street. And I see our new executive director is here.
Pretty soon you're not going to be able to call me new anymore. We'll get settled in. Thank you guys for having me tonight. I want to talk a little bit about Oktoberfest. We all know what happened. I saw many of you folks there. I know I talked to several of you, and if I didn't talk to you, I apologize, but it was kind of a wild weekend. Very successful. Estimate we've seen is over 5,000 people joined us over the 3 days. Anecdotally, I heard from some police officers, and I think talking to Mayor Schilke as well, that this is the largest crowd of people they've ever seen for a single event down on River Street. Committee that put that together comprised of many of our downtown business owners, plus over 200 volunteers and all of the sponsors that come together to host all this event downtown. We really also want to acknowledge the support we got from the city. Without that, this event just wouldn't be possible. And the complexities of hosting this thing on River Street become more of a challenge every year as it gets bigger and bigger. And we acknowledge that, but I think most of you will agree that it really is the perfect backdrop for Oktoberfest. And that's something that I personally discovered attending this time. Coming from not being a resident of Batavia, but having lived within 5 miles of the border my entire adult life, basically. I saw the construction of River Street. I knew what was happening. I was jealous of it from afar, as it was happening. And, I really just admire what we've done. It's such a unique asset that really kind of stands out among the whole Fox Valley area, that we have this thing here that's, unique to Batavia that we can share. And, that's one of the really one of the things that attracted me to wanting to come down here and do some work and join in with everybody, was having that asset in our community to use. But there are hurdles when you try to put on a festival this size on a city block. And throughout the last couple months of planning, we kept hitting those hurdles, and we kept clearing those hurdles, and I kept saying, man, this may not be working here much longer. But after seeing it all come together and, just feeling the ambiance of being on the bricks between the old buildings down there, as opposed to, having to set up in a parking lot like a lot of cities have to do who don't have this asset to us, really kind of stood out to me of what a great thing this is for us to use and how that makes Batavia stand out. So I just want to thank all of you guys for your commitment to River Street, for developing it the way it is, and for continuing to work with us and the community to put these things on down there and use it for what it works best for. Moving on, we don't get much time to rest on our laurels. We jump right into the next one. So we have Batfest coming up in a couple weeks. Saturday, October 27th, downtown businesses tell us there's over 1,000 kids come through trick-or-treating. The businesses tell us they love it because those kids all have parents, and it brings foot traffic into all these businesses, lets people see what you have there. We encourage our businesses to give out a coupon, a flyer, something to let to the parents instead of just dropping the candy in the bag. Let people know what you're doing. It's a great marketing opportunity there. So that's what we have going on. Kids are going to join us in the park. We have a collaborative pumpkin painting project this year. Our pumpkin roll will be happening again. We have crafts, songs, live dancing to the Monster Mash, of course, and a few other contests and events that are planned for that. And then there's only two weeks left to the farmers market, so we wanted to mention that. After that wraps up at the end of October, actually the Bat Fest is the final farmers market. It moves over to this side of the river for that to happen, and that's how we do that. But then the indoor market begins right away on November 4th, so we still have meat, eggs, bread, cheese, and some of the microgreens that are available all around the year, and that's held in Gaetano's on Saturday mornings. So you still have an opportunity to come in, and everybody gets kind of hooked on all that great fresh food that we can buy every Saturday, so we don't want to stop it during the winter. With that, Small Business Saturday is really where my focus is going to be for the next 6 weeks. Coming up fast, we actually had a meeting this morning with our downtown retailers, talk about our marketing strategy. It was actually a really productive meeting. We got some new ideas. Several of the businesses, when we sit around these meetings, they kind of start talking to each other, and we find out how well, I'm not really a retail business, and this doesn't work for me, but you are a retail business, and I can give something to you. And they get some collaborations that happen without us having to take the lead on it. And that's really kind of what the idea is there, is to bring everybody together and find new ways that we can work and all help each other out. So that's kind of the way things are going. We have kind of our overall marketing plan starting to fall into place. Right now, we're going to do some giveaways and drawings from all the downtown businesses. We're going to incorporate a food and toy drive to get some charity into it, and have some more discussion in the next few weeks about some other things that we're going to work into that. But there's a lot of people that hit downtown both on Batfest and on Small Business Saturday. Those are two of our biggest events to get people out door to door to all of these businesses that we work with. So really looking forward to the opportunities that provides us to focus on all of our different Main Street businesses and how to enhance everybody. So that's all I got for tonight. I'll see you at Batfest. Thank you.
Any alderman got any questions or comments? I just want to note, I give Main Street a pat on the back. We've got more new businesses currently putting themselves together so they can open up on Wilson Street, and they're all retail. So we're excited about that. We're going to have some long unoccupied business space reoccupied by some very unique ideas. So I think this is a kind of a awakening of what downtown Batavia can be, and so I just want to share the appreciation of the city to Main Street and to the partners at the Chamber of Commerce, because having those two teams available to work with us and work kind of outside of us and helping to show some the properties around and the opportunities, I think, is really bearing a lot of positive benefits for the downtown Batavia business community. So thank you. Okay, moving to item number 9, which is the proclamation for World Polio Day. Alderman Atek, would you present this, please?
Yes, proclamation for World Polio Day 2018. Whereas the Rotary Club of Batavia, Illinois is a member of Rotary International, the world's first and still one of its largest non-profit service organizations, founded in Chicago, Illinois in 1905. And whereas the Rotary motto, service above self, inspires members to provide humanitarian service, encourage high ethical standards, and promote goodwill and peace in the world. And whereas Rotary in 1985 launched Polio Plus and spearheaded the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, which today includes the World Health Organization, U.S. Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, UNICEF, and the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation to immunize all children of the world against polio. And whereas polio cases have dropped by over 99.9% since 1988, and the world now stands on the threshold of eradicating this dread disease and thereby eliminating the threat of polio-caused paralysis to every child in the world, and whereas members of the Rotary Club of Batavia, Illinois continue to contribute their time and their resources to support Polio Plus and the Global Polio Eradication Initiative, and whereas their efforts are providing much-needed operational support, medical personnel, laboratory equipment, and educational materials for health workers and parents. Therefore, I, Jeffrey Schelke, Mayor of the City of Batavia, do hereby proclaim October 24th, 2018 as World Polio Day in Batavia, Illinois, and do hereby encourage all residents to join the Rotarians of our local club in the fight for a polio-free world. Approved this 15th day of October 2018, signed Mayor Schelke. I move that we approve the proclamation as read.
Second.
We have a motion and second for the approval of the proclamation. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll. Oh, Alderman Callahan.
This one is very important to me. My father-in-law had polio when he was 17 and went for 60-plus years being disabled by the disease, but he never let it stop him, and he became a huge handicap disabled rights person. And so if there was anything that came out of him being struck with polio, it was that, and he was a very strong man because of it.
Yeah, and I might add, over the years, we've had several very highly respected city employees who had battled polio in their youth and recovered and served very productive lives. So this is, I think, a very important cause that we are championing here tonight. So, clerk, call the roll.
Atak?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
Chanzit?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown? Rosato?
Aye.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. We have Dave Pedersen here from the Batavia Rotary, and the other Rotarians want to come up too. Get you all on the camera here, if nothing else. Oh yeah, bring Laura in, she's part of the gang here. So, you've just heard it all read, but this is what we are presenting to you. And we thank you for your action, and your awareness, and your community education that is helping to put this message forward. And hopefully we're very nearing the day when polio will be eradicated and won't be something that we'll have to worry about. But needless to say, when it does strike, it can be a real problematic situation for any individual impacted by it. And the fact that our Batavia Rotary is willing to step forward and raise the issue, I think says a lot about what you guys are all about, you guys and gals are all about, and that we are hopefully going to be well on the road to getting rid of it once and for all. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. And, your name's on the agenda, so I'll present you.
Okay. Dave is our chairman. Just a couple words. Polio is a disease you've read about in history books. Does it still exist? Yes. Is it curable? It's preventable. There is no cure. So prevention is the number one thing. Cases have decreased by over 99%, as the proclamation says, since 1988, from an estimated 350,000 cases to just 22 cases reported in 2017. This reduction is a result of the global effort to eradicate the disease. Today, only 3 countries in the world have never stopped transmission of polio: Pakistan, Afghanistan, and Nigeria. And a major reason why those 3 areas continue to combat is due to the refugee problem. They just can't get the medication and the preventative services to the people who desperately need them, but only 22 cases worldwide. As long as a single child remains infected with the polio virus, children in all countries, including the United States, are at risk. It can easily be imported, especially to the Western countries. Failure to eradicate could result in over 200,000 new cases every year within 10 years, just from that small sample of 22 individuals who have polio. There is no cure. It can be prevented. We've been actively involved in the Polio Plus campaign for 9 years. Our chairman is Dave Peterson, who accepted the proclamation tonight. We've donated thousands of dollars and man hours towards this cause. We're very proud of it. Every year we do a Kane County Strikeout Polio evening, which Dave has continued to organize, and we will continue to organize it. And as you've seen in the posters in the airports and around from the many personalities and celebrities who support us, we're that close. We're that close.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Okay, and as we roll into the kind of the business section of our agenda, I'm reminded by Alderman Wolf that we need to encourage everybody to use the mics. So we've, as you've heard rather recently at our meetings, we've had some folks come down and ask us if we would speak specifically into the mic. So if you're going to make any questions or comments, I'd ask that you carefully make sure you watch the mic. So we'll move to item number 10, which is Resolution 18-105-R, awarding a grant under Downtown Improvement Program to 129 South Batavia Avenue. John Happel, who's got this one?
I do. Okay, so lucky for Batavia, we have a new business coming to Batavia Avenue, and this was an application for a downtown improvement grant and facade grant for 129 South Batavia Avenue. It was recommended by Historic Preservation and then came on to us with a positive recommendation from the COW to City Council, and we're voting on it tonight. The COW approved it unanimously, and it's a $15,000 grant or 50% of the actual project cost, whichever is the lesser amount. Excuse me, and it's a matching grant, and that's Resolution 18-105R, and then Resolution 18-106R is the facade part of the grant, which is also a matching grant for $5,000 or 50% of the actual project cost, whichever is the lesser amount. And so I would make a motion that we approve Resolution 18-105R, awarding a downtown improvement matching grant to John Happel in the amount of $15,000 or 50% of the actual project cost, whichever is the lesser amount.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Stark, second by Alderman Meisler for the approval of Resolution 18-105-R. Any discussion? I would just make the observation, Mr. Happel has already done quite a bit of work down there, and I appreciate what he's done. The building was, obviously, it had been kind of a stationary use there for quite a while, and he has turned it into, I think, something that's quite appealing for Batavia Avenue. So appreciate all the good efforts you've done down there. And I think it continues to speak well for what downtown Batavia is going to be all about. We're waiting with great interest to see what's going to happen across the street from this property on the old Chase Bank that's now been closed and the for sale signs been put up. And I can imagine that during the coming year, there'll be some intensified plan commission meetings as people come in with ideas about what they'd like to do there and how they'd like to do it. And so downtown Batavia seems to be the active place for people to want to create downtown development, and I think that's a very good trend, and it speaks well for the future of the downtown and the future of the community. And the thing I like about it is all this stuff is generating additional property taxes that will be supporting the community for many, many years to come. So with that being said, clerk, call the roll then on Resolution 18-105-R.
Stark.
Aye.
Jansit.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosato.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Resolution 18-105-R is approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. Moving then to item 11, which is Resolution 18-106-R, awarding a grant under the Facade Grant Program for 129 South Batavia Avenue to John Happel. And Alderman Stark has already covered this under her presentation, so does somebody want to care to make a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Stark and second by Alderman Metzler. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Stark.
Aye.
Janset.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien. Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Molay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosado.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. So, thank you. Okay, moving to item 12, which is ordinance 18-60, authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement for Windmill Landings Congregate Care Facility at 2401 Hawks Drive and at 37W407 and 37W475 Fabian Parkway. Alderman Brown, do you have this one?
Actually, Alderman Stark was going to take this one.
Alderman
tonight.
Stark, okay.
Your Honor.
Yes, I'm just waiting for it to load. This is a very long item. Still loading. There were a lot of attachments.
Some music.
I know. The Jeopardy theme song is. Okay. We covered this at the COW several weeks ago, and this is the first of several ordinances regarding the proposed Windmill Landings senior or congregate living facility at 2401 Hawks Drive and 37W407 and 37475 Fabian Parkway. And the first part of this is the annexation agreement, and this passed through the COW with it was a unanimous vote to be able to annex this property into the city of Batavia to be able to build on it. So I recommend, or I make the motion that we approve ordinance 18-60, authorizing the execution of an annexation agreement.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Stark, second by Alderman Brown for the approval of ordinance 18-60, authorizing the execution agreement with Windmill Landings Congregate Care Facility. Any discussion? Alderman?
There was an email that was sent to us today from a citizen asking us to reconsider this for the evening because they didn't think that there was an adequate amount of talk about the calls for emergency services to pick up fallen seniors in existing Batavia facilities. And I just wanted to make a comment that's been addressed. I think to Alan's point, that's an issue
Yeah, and it's something that Tri-City Ambulance Service has brought up time and time again, that at some point, the governing body that issues the cost and collects for the services, being Tri-City Ambulance, is going to consider whether or not those become a charge service to try and recoup reimbursement on that, because it's becoming a burden to the departments by just sheer call volumes every day. So that's something that they're going to be talking about, and it's something we knew up front. And just like any other unit or any other building that gets built in this community, they pay property taxes to be able to have those services. So it's not something that we don't think about or that we don't take into account when we start this. So I was really kind of taken aback by the email today, and I wasn't going to say much about it because, frankly, I can't believe that was written the way it was written to us.
Thank you.
Any other comments or questions? Clerk, call the roll.
Stark.
Aye.
Janset.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Molay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosado.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Motion is approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. Okay, moving to 13, ordinance 18-62, annexing and zoning territory in the city of Batavia for Windmill Landings Congregate Care Facility at 2401 Hawks Drive and 37W407 and 37W475 Fabian Parkway. Alderman Stark?
Yes, this goes hand in hand with the ordinance we just passed. Now that we've authorized the execution of an annexation agreement, now we have to actually approve the ordinance that annexes and zones it. And so I make the motion that we approve ordinance 1862, annexing and zoning territory to the city of Batavia.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Stark, second by Alderman McFadden for the approval of ordinance 1862. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll, please.
Stark.
Aye.
Janset.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosato.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Ordinance 1862 is approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Okay, moving to item 14, which is ordinance 18-63, approving a plat of vacation for Janet Lane right-of-way for Windmill Landings Congregate Care Facility at 2401 Hawks Drive and 37W407 and 37W475 Fabian Parkway. Alderman Stark?
There was a small piece of land on Janet Lane that needed to be vacated to be able to go through the annexing and zoning part of this agreement, and so that's what this ordinance is for. So I make the motion that we approve ordinance 1863, approving a plat of vacation for Janet Lane right-of-way.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Stark, second by Alderman McFadden for the approval. Ordinance 1863 for the plat of vacation for Janet Lane right-of-way. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Stark.
Aye.
Janset.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown. Rosato.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Okay, moving to item 15, which is ordinance 18-64, amending the zoning map for a MU mixed-use district plan development overlay for Windmill Landings Congregate Care Facility at 2401 Hawks Drive and 37W407 and 37W475 Fabian Parkway. Alderman Stark?
Again, this is all part of the same project. This is putting an overlay on the zoning map so that it can be used for mixed use. And as the mayor just mentioned, this is for a senior assisted living and memory care facility. And so I make the motion that we approve ordinance 1864, amending the zoning map for a mixed use district plan development overlay.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Stark, second by Alderman McFadden for the approval of ordinance 1864. Any discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Stark.
Aye.
Janset.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosato.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Ordinance 1864 is approved, 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Moving to item 16 on the agenda, which is Resolution 18-104-R, approving the final plat of re-subdivision for Windmill Landings Congregate Care Facility, 2401 Hawks Drive, and 37W407 and 37W475 Fabian Parkway. Alderman Stark.
This is the final resolution that ties it all up, and I just want to add that when this is constructed, it will employ approximately 90 people, 63 of them full-time, and create additional jobs as well as real estate taxes and electric use for that site. We're very excited to have this move over to that medical campus over behind Walmart. And so I would make the motion that we approve Resolution 18-104R, approving the final plat of re-subdivision for Windmill Landings.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Stark, second by Alderman McFadden for the approval of ordinance 18-104-R for the re-subdivision of Windmill Landings Congregate Care Facility for 2401 Hawks Drive and 37W407 and 37W475 Fabian Parkway. Alderman Brown, you want to make a...
Yeah, I just want to make a couple comments, Your Honor, now that we're about to go through these 5 approvals here to kind of piggyback on Alderman Stark's comments that this is a project that's been long coming. They've been working with city staff now, I believe, for probably close to 2 years since they first started talking about it. The owner/developer, I believe, is the same as the project that was just completed across the street. And it's a very nice building. It's certainly going to be an asset to the community. It's the parking that's being provided for the tenants is going to be indoor heated parking garage, along with the visitor parking out in front, which will be accessible off of Fabian Parkway. And it's just going to be a very nicely done building. It's going to be very attractive, and it's, I think, a great place for it. The tenants there are going to be able to overlook the Brayburn Marsh off to the south from the building, and if they wish to walk over to Walmart and do their shopping or what have you, it's right there accessible for them to do that. So I think it'll be a great asset. So I just want to make those comments, and I'm happy to see Mr. Smith and his group proceed with another project in town.
Alderman Callahan?
I just wanted to echo what Dave said, but also hear from the applicant just one last time before we do the final vote on this, just because it is a much anticipated, like Dave said, and a need that we have for our community, that a lot of people are aging in our town and do want to stay here. And this is a piece of that puzzle that they're bringing to us.
And I had one of the ladies from River Rain down the other day and was talking to me about various things, and she said she watches the city council meeting and she doesn't have any problem hearing us, but sometimes we talk about things that she doesn't know where it is we're talking about. So she suggested that when we get something like this, as the chairman of the meeting, I should specifically identify where this is at. So for that little lady, I will express the point that this is due west of the Walmart at Fabian and Randall, up on the top of the hill behind it. And we're very optimistic that this is all going to come together in a very nice, supportive situation with a medical clinic and a Walmart store that's going to be the folks in either one of these facilities on either side of the street will be able to walk to it. And it should be a very nice thing for a whole bunch of people to spend a lot of great years in Batavia as senior citizens with, as you just indicated, dynamic views of the Brayburn Marsh area and all the conveniences of home right there with them. So I'm excited about it, and I'm very obviously, I know the developers. They are class acts, and they have done some very nice things in Batavia previously, so I have no doubt that this will also be another one that will add to their list of appreciated projects in our town. Any other discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Stark?
Aye.
Chansett?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosato?
Aye.
Atak?
Aye.
Motion's approved, 14 yes, no no's, not absent. Gentlemen, you want to make any comments?
Just for a moment, my name is Dave Smith, and I'm a representative for the development team here, and we have very much enjoyed working with your city staff, and albeit a long and arduous process, we got through, and I think it's going to be a wonderful addition for your community, and we're anxious to get started. So thank you again so much for your support. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
Your Honor, closing comment for me anyway, I just would like to tell Mr. Smith that here recently there's been a lot of controversial things, or what some people would consider controversial, and it's not often we get a unanimous vote out of the city council, and you just got one. So that kind of speaks highly of what your project is bringing to town.
Well, it probably doesn't hurt that we're investing over $40 million in the community and and creating, as I said, 90 to 100 jobs, and so it's a very a good process, and it's great for the aging population to have a place to stay in the community. And I think you'll be very appreciative when you see it, the finished product. It's something very special.
Alderman Chancellor, you want to add a comment?
The residents of this building will be in Ward 7, at least temporarily, until we have to redraw the boundaries because of all the houses that are going up west of Randall.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm sure there's going to be a lot of reapportionment of wards in the 2020 census when it's done, because, there's, under the 64 U.S. Supreme Court ruling, we got to have one equal number of residents living in every one of the 7 wards. So the county clerk's going to have his work cut out for him in Batavia, specifically, as you just said. These 2 developments up there on the hill are going to kind of shake that boundary a little bit.
They'd be welcome additions to the 3rd ward.
Right.
Thank you again.
Thank you.
Really appreciate it.
Okay, moving to 17, which is Resolution 18-115-R, authorizing support of participation in a Safe Routes to School grant program. Who's got this one?
I do, Your Honor.
Alderman Wolf.
Give me 1 second. Won't take long to load this back up. Okay. This is about our participation in grant money to come in for sidewalk installations for Safe Routes to School. It was originally established in August 2005 as a federal aid program through the passage of Safety LU. The purpose of this program is to provide funding for projects to improve the safety of K through 8 students who walk or bicycle for their trip to and from school. We've used this in the past. This is just the grant application for it. The money that we get would be used for, or if we were able to get this, would fill in some gaps on Woodland Hills Drive from Wilson Street to Bluebell Lane on the east side, Trillium Court, Woodland Hills Drive to Johnson's Wood Drive, north side, Foxglove Drive, Violet Lane to Woodland Hills Drive on the south side, and Republic Road, Illinois Avenue to North Avenue on the east side. I see the main benefit to this is usually getting cars off the street and just let kids walk to school. So that's where I feel like this is a really good thing for the city to be involved in. And also, even though we don't have the grant yet and we don't have the money, we have the word out there that these are the places these are going to go to. So if anybody has any issues with them, now's the time to start talking about it, not when somebody's chopping up your front yard to put a sidewalk in it. So I think that this is why this needs to get out early and people need to know about this. It is a good thing, and anytime we can get any of the little bit of money that's left out there to come in the form of a grant, it's a good thing. Anybody have any questions?
Any comments from the council on it?
I have a comment. I've always supported Safe Routes to School. I think it's a good program. And I support this, but I would like to review, and I don't know how they got to Woodland Hills Road, since there is a sidewalk on the west side of Woodland Hills Road from Wilson down to Geesey, so it's the whole length of the road already has a sidewalk on it. And there are plenty of areas in the city of Batavia that do not have sidewalks at all. And so I'd say if we get the grant money, that's fine, but I would want to allot that money, put that money towards something else. And if we can't, let me finish, please.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say then take Woodland Hills off of that, because we don't need a second sidewalk. I don't know if the school district has gone and spoken to any of the residents in the first ward, but I have. And I don't know if our staff has done that either, but they've come upon, once again, something in the first ward opposed to what the residents are looking for. And so since we already have a sidewalk from Wilson to Geesey Road, the full length of Woodland Hills Road, I don't think we need to double up on sidewalks when there are, like I said earlier, other areas in Batavia that require sidewalks.
Yeah, I think that that's was picked because of the traffic speed and volume on that collector street to be able to have a sidewalk on both sides, just like Pine Street or any of the other major collectors do. And that's the reason it was chosen.
Well, then I would have to say, if that's the case, slow the traffic down, as I have asked numerous times. Slow the traffic down. It's a neighborhood. And that's what I would recommend we do.
I just have one question too. I mean, given if it's the speed, that's fine, but I just don't know why we picked to Bluebell. That doesn't necessarily make any sense to me because you know, if anything, you keep going down to Wintergreen Terrace, or I'm not sure. I don't know if it was a dollars thing or not, but it just seems like a random street to stop at. So.
And I know we don't have Rahat here tonight to answer those questions, so I don't think we can. And again, we have to wait to see what we can get in it. Yeah. And if there is, reservation and we don't want those there, then we would just forego the grant for that section of it.
Mm-hmm. There are, I think there are other collector streets that only have sidewalks on one side that I think where people might want sidewalks on both sides of the street. So I don't know if it can be redirected.
No, it can't. And that's the one reason why these are out now, is so that way, people are aware that that's what we're trying to put sidewalks on.
Well, I would recommend our staff kindly speak with the residents where they have failed to do so in the past. And it would have been, I guess, beneficial to us all had Rahat been here tonight. So.
Alderman Brown?
I'll just make the same comment I made at the committee of the whole, where we've been through this before, where not necessarily with the grant program, just with the sidewalk program that we used to have in town. And this will become a very highly controversial subject should we get the grant and should we decide to continue further, because then you're going to get into the discussion about, they bought in an area where they didn't have sidewalks and that's where they like to live. And then you're going to get into the discussion about should the sidewalk stop at the driveways, skip the driveway, and then start on the other side of the driveway because it's too expensive if we go through the driveway, because then you got to replace the driveway up to a certain point because of the grades. And it's going to become quite the conversation. So I guess all we're doing tonight is approving the grant request, and if we get the money, we'll have that conversation.
And that's why I wanted to have it on the regular agenda so that we would talk about it. Elliot?
And I welcome that. I mean, I certainly would appreciate seeing some sidewalk on Republic Road in the 3rd Ward, because there are plenty of students that have to walk down that road.
And to your point, there's a lot of areas and a lot of people that do want them, and there's a lot of areas where
it's a mix.
Going to have.
And it used to be that street did not want them, and
Right.
now they do, and I know they do.
And Republic Road had a couple of infamous meetings down here where they made it clear they didn't want sidewalk.
So, and I might add, on Woodland Hills Road, the students take the bus. They don't walk to J.B. Nelson. It's a bus route. So.
Well, sidewalks has always been one of the detonation issues that you could always count upon, and you all of you are just following in the voices of your predecessors here, because this has always been a very highly controversial subject, and there's been people on both sides of the issue all along, and there's no right or wrong reason for any of it, but I think it's good just ward discussions as to everybody finds out, as obviously Alderman O'Brien has, as to where people in his ward want a sidewalk and they don't want one. So we can't argue any of that. It's just a matter of how it all comes together. But I am very proud of the fact that we have added a lot of after-the-fact sidewalk in Batavia over the years. Certainly starting when Alderman Brown's father was mayor, he commenced a program of starting to put sidewalk around, and there was a lot of places that there was none. I remember specifically there was, no sidewalk going down like Chestnut Street to J.B. Nelson School or to Carlisle Road going to Alice Gustafson School. And a lot of those aldermen back in those days fought for those sidewalks because the areas had been largely already built upon before they were annexed into the city. Carlisle Road certainly was. And so sidewalk was kind of an after fact. And I think that same thing may be true out on Republic Road, that it was kind of built before some of it was actually annexed in, and then it was after the fact that it got brought in, and then things were brought in after that. So some of this is just us revisiting history here and trying to work it out as to what we think would be the best courses. But I certainly would encourage us to try to go for this grant, because right now there's not a lot of grants floating around for anything, and the fact that there is apparently still some money in the pot to do this, I would like to make sure Batavia gets its fair share. So any further discussion? I ask the clerk to call the roll.
Just a point of clarification, then, if we go for the grant, do we have to put a sidewalk on Woodland Hills Road?
No.
Okay.
But if we don't put it on Woodland Hills Road where it's listed, we can't use the money elsewhere.
Okay.
I'll make the motion that we approve Resolution 18-115-R, authorizing support of participation in the Safe Routes to School grant program.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Wolf, second by Alderman, who? Metzler, for the approval of Resolution 18-115-R. Clerk, call the roll.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Weitzler.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosato.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Stark.
Aye.
Chanzy.
Excuse me.
Resolution 18-115-R is approved by a vote of 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Moving to item 18, which is Resolution 18-116-R, authorizing task order number 9 for Power Systems Engineering for designing distribution substation rebuild at the Paramount Park Substation for an amount not to exceed $386,000. Alderman O'Brien, do you have this?
Alderman Chanzit is going to introduce this. Thank you.
So this came out of Cal last week. This is a continuation. Power System Engineering, PSE, already did the first part of this project. This would be to complete the second part of the project with completion 2020, before peak time of 2020. This is for an amount not to exceed $386,000 for improvements at the Paramount Substation.
Any discussion?
Okay, with that, I would make a motion then to approve Resolution 18-116R, authorizing task order number 9 with PSE for designing the distribution station, substation build at Paramount for an amount not to exceed $386,000.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Chanzit, second by Alderman O'Brien, for the approval of ordinance or Resolution 18-116-R for the rebuilding of the Paramount Substation. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
Chanzit.
Aye.
Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Millet.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Brown.
Aye.
Rosato.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Stark.
Aye.
Okay, Resolution 18-116-R is approved 14 yes, no nos, none absent. Okay, moving to resolution, or item 19, which is Resolution 18-118-R, approving a letter of intent for sale of electrical power to Alpha-Goma. And our city administrator is here to tell us all about this.
Okay, as you know, the city has an ordinance that provides economic incentives for the addition of large electric loads to our system. Alpha-Goma is an Italian company who is worldwide manufacturer of hoses and fasteners for a multitude of industrial applications. And they have been looking at the former Rubicon facility here in the city of Batavia at 950 Douglas Road. And in order to incentivize their occupancy and hopefully to encourage them to purchase that existing vacant facility, the city of Batavia intends to offer them an economic development incentive that would reduce the rate that they pay for bringing over 300,000 kilowatts of average monthly use to our electric system, which would be a great benefit to us in that we are currently under a contract in which we underutilize the amount of power that we are contracted for. So we like to see and be able to attract companies that are going to bring a large electric load. Not only that, the hopes are that within the first few years of their operation, we would also like to incentivize them to grow that load as well. So the terms that we would like to provide to them is that if Alpha-Goma's monthly average electric consumption is between 300,000 kilowatts and 499,999 kilowatts, as calculated over a period of 12 consecutive months, then Alpha-Goma would be eligible for a total of 3 years of incentives. And in fact, they had contacted us just over a concern that maybe a blip might happen in the course of their manufacturing, and they wanted to be able to have the majority of the incentive available to them in the event that there was a year where, for whatever reason, losing a big customer or some unforeseen circumstances led to a 1-year drop in that load, that they wouldn't lose the benefit of the incentive. So they asked that the 3 years of incentives be within 4 consecutive years so that they could get restored the other 2 years of the benefit. And we did that with, there were 2 other incentives that were provided. So if there's the minimum of the 300,000 monthly average in a 12-month period, affords them the opportunity for an incentive of 2 cents off per kilowatt hour for a period of 3 years. And then we also provided them the incentive that if their average electric consumption increases to 500,000 kilowatts per hour or greater as calculated over a period of 12 consecutive months, then they'll be eligible for 3 additional years of incentives for a total of 6 years of incentives. But again, with that additional year potential in the event that within that 6 years, there's 1 year that there is that dip and they don't achieve that 500,000. So they're eligible for a total of 6 years of incentives over a 7-year period. And also, if during that period of time there is a second year where they are not at the 500,000, they would lose that incentive unless they have purchased the building within the first 3 years of occupancy, and they maintain at least a level of 300,000 kilowatt hours per month usage in a 12-month period. There is also the opportunity for if Alpha Gamma's monthly average electric consumption is between 300,000 kilowatt hours and 499,999 kilowatt hours, as calculated over a period of 12 consecutive months, and if they purchase the building within the first 3 years of occupancy, then also they would be eligible for a total of 6 years of economic development incentives over a period of 7 consecutive years. But in addition to that, for purchasing the building, we would also include a sum equal to $10,000 annually for each year within the incentive period that they own the facility. And then the final is if they are over 500,000 kilowatts monthly average, then they would have an incentive of 7 years, but over an 8-year period. So if they both own the building and they go over that 500,000 kilowatt hour monthly average over the course of 12 months, they could earn that 2 cents off for a period of 7 incentive years, and they'd also receive the additional sum equal to $10,000 annually for each year within the incentive period that they own the facility. So are there any questions about the incentive? I know it sounds a little bit confusing, but I did send it out in writing earlier today.
I just wanted to say, we have to get creative in how we attract businesses into our community. And given that we have a fixed amount of electricity we have to buy on an annual basis, this would be a nice little dent that we could put into that if we can attract them. And so kudos to Chris and the team for getting them. Hopefully we can land them. But these are the things that we need to do as a community to try and get people into our community and share that load. So.
I also wanted to mention that Carrie Zethmeyer is here as a representative of Alpha Gamma this evening. So if you have any questions about Alpha Gamma, Carrie can maybe field those for you.
Alderman Callahan?
Do something about electric, do something about electric. That's all we've heard for years. This is a large power user that's coming to our town. That's absolutely fantastic. Number 2, it's a manufacturer that's coming to Illinois and our area. And just like we were adding population and housing to the other side of town and the retail that we approved earlier, we're doing something that the state ought to listen to because we're very proud to have Alpha Gamma here.
And 100 jobs.
Jansen?
Yes.
Yes.
I would just make the remark that while the deal is a little complex, it incents them for becoming a citizen. It incents them for planting their roots here, purchasing the building and staying here. And that should come at a premium. I think that was really creative the way that you guys did that.
Great.
Alderman?
Yeah, I think just kind of echo what everybody else has been saying. It's people listening might be like, why are we giving stuff away? And it's just like private enterprise would be competing. If 2 places are trying to lease space, they compete and they have to provide incentives. So we have to do the same thing. So those that are listening, that are wondering why we do this, it's still money coming in to our electric, and it is increase in tax dollars, things that we are missing right now by leaving a vacant building. So that's why we have to do this stuff.
Thank you.
Other comments or questions? I would just note that Laura certainly has been counseling with me since these conversations began. I did a little nosing around in the background of this firm, and they certainly check out very strongly that they're a highly regarded firm in other places they do business, and it's not some fly-by-night outfit that we have to think it's going to be here for 2 months and leave us. So I'm encouraging the council to go along with this, because the staff has spent a lot of time, Chris Ashton and Laura specifically have spent a lot of time and effort kind of working this thing through. And that Rubicon building out there, is those of you who have been here for a while like myself will remember, that was kind of a work in progress there for a long time. They started out and they got it halfway built, and then they decided they wanted to add more power than they had originally, and they really packed the place full of electrical support. And then suddenly one day they announced they were going to be disappearing into the night and maybe even leaving the country. So that happened, and we've, I think, got a very able substitute to bring them in here to take their place. And I'm excited too, because of the job opportunities this will generate for the community, along with, as you've just said, the additional tax base and the use of power that will be coming off the Batavia system. A highly reliable system at that point, I might note, because that was one of the improvements that we put in, was the backup power supplies that location had. In case one line went down, there's another one to pick it right up and keep them in business. So I appreciate all the good efforts and comments everybody's made. Alderman Chanson?
So, since someone from the company is here, I'm just curious, the way it's titled, this is a letter of intent.
Yes.
Have we been selected as the site, or are they still mulling over where they're going to go?
The deal for the real estate has not yet been consummated.
Okay.
So, no.
Okay.
Is that correct, Carrie?
Hopefully this strengthens the proposal.
Your Honor, I'd like to just say too, though, we've been discussing our electric utility and the service we give all the time, our utility, and that it's a redundant system. And hopefully Algoma recognizes that also.
Yes.
We have a redundant system, and we have far better service than a ComEd crew would have.
Yes,
And
we
so, I mean,
definitely.
we do respond, and we're very proud of our electric utility.
Responsiveness.
Absolutely, and the redundancy.
And the
that
redundancy.
it offers.
Yes. One of the things that Alpha Gamma has requested, because they'd like to, if the real estate deal is consummated, they'd like to move this forward as quickly as possible so that they can get up and running as soon as possible. They've asked if the resolution could give the mayor authorization to sign off on the MSA as long under the terms of the binding letter of intent. Is that okay, Roman, if we amend the resolution to include that authorization? Thank you.
Any
I'll
other?
make a motion to amend the resolution as discussed, as presented by Laura.
Okay, we have a motion and second to amend the resolution as discussed. I guess we'll take a vote on the motion to amend. Clerk, call the roll.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosato?
Aye.
Atek?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
Chanzit? Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
All right. Motion's approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. Now we need a motion for approval of the resolution.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman O'Brien, second by Alderman Savati, for the approval of Resolution 18-118-R. Any further discussion? Clerk, call the roll.
O'Brien?
Aye.
Callahan?
Aye.
Meitzler?
Aye.
Malay?
Aye.
Ewer?
Aye.
Saron?
Aye.
McFadden?
Aye.
Brown?
Aye.
Rosato?
Aye.
Atek?
Aye.
Stark?
Aye.
Chanzit?
Aye.
Wolf?
Aye.
Salvati?
Aye.
Motion for the approval of Resolution 18-118-R is approved, 14 yes, no no's, none absent. So hopefully we've sent the right message to the company that we're very encouraged to have you move into our town. Yeah, would you come up and use the mic?
Hi. I'm Carrie Zethmeyer, and again, I'm here representing Alpha-Goma. I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the mayor. Thank you to the city council. Thank you to your staff, Chris Eiston, Laura Newman, and also Gary Holm, who I know put a lot of effort into putting this together. I'm sure you've got a very deep team as well working behind the scenes. So I just want to say thank you, and that Alpha-Goma is very genuinely looking for a long-term mutually beneficial relationship and partner in the city of Batavia. It is a tight negotiation right now, and so I just appreciate the effort of your team in bringing this together. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we move to 20, which is the administrator's report.
Okay, I've got a couple of items here. In Community and Economic Development, the Historic Preservation Commission reviewed and revised plans for changes to the building at 109 East Wilson Street. That's the Graviscus building, and continued this for further discussion. I think that they wanted to see a little bit more of an adaptation that was more of an homage to the history of the building than what was presented at that building. So the new proprietors are going to work with their architect to try to come up with something to satisfy the Historic Preservation Commission's requests. We interviewed 6 total candidates for the building inspector and code enforcement officer position. Also, planning staff finished up with the reports and documents for the Windmill Landings project. Plan Commission will be meeting on October 17th to review several cleanup rezonings of city-owned property and to review text amendments to the Community Commercial District. And we are reviewing the revised submittal for the Winding Creek development, which is on the Landmeyer Farm directly behind the former Sam's Club. And reviewing a revised, we also have a voluntary annexation of property on McKinley Street. That will be on a future committee of the whole meeting. And the Historic Preservation Commission approved a revised COA for the CA facility sign at 12 West Wilson Street. Public Works is still very busy. We have ongoing construction at the Northeast Substation for the new 34 kV transformer installation, removal of the downtown flowers in preparation for the winter season. We have initial testing of our leaf collection equipment and crew refresh training so that they're prepared for the official start of the leaf collection program. Completion of the pavement striping on all of the in the downtown area, as well as ongoing work at the Well 8 rehabilitation project, and the Riverbank utility stabilization is ongoing. We received a really nice compliment through the Park District. A gentleman had contacted them, thanking them for the removal of debris that was kind of hooked onto Clark Island. He's a gentleman who fishes out there frequently. And not only did he mention that he appreciated the removal of that brush, but he remarked that the way that they're doing the riverbank stabilization is really looking nice in that area. So for the next couple of weeks, we'll see that same work being done on this north side of the bridge as well. So that should really make that area look nice and make us consider continuing that project in future years to other portions of the bank that could use that same stabilization. I think that's what I have for the administrator's report, unless you have any questions for me. Alderman Salati.
So I had another email this week.
Yes.
About the intersection of Geesey and Larkspur.
Mm-hmm.
And that was an area that was redone with the stormwater project. And there was some concern as to the striping on the westbound side of that on Geesey.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't necessarily see a problem with it, but have you heard anything about that and have any input?
So, because the road narrows as it goes to the east, some may question, what was the thought process behind that? Back when Geesey Road was originally planned, it was thought that that was going to be a major arterial route. let's say similar to what McKee Street is up over on the west side of town here. And it just really never did end up carrying the volume of traffic that we anticipated that it would. And what that has led to are issues where it's perceived that people are driving faster than they should be because they've got so much room on that street. So as we did the drainage project, we took the opportunity to narrow that street to what should be required for the amount of traffic volume that comes through that area. We have already had some positive comments from people who live in the narrowed portion to say they have seen a reduction in the number of, or the speed with which cars travel through that area. But narrowing the street and being able to narrow the street has two other positive repercussions for us as well. It is far less expensive to maintain Parkway than it is to continue to maintain pavement. And also in an area that's already, we know, has in the past been plagued with flooding, we're taking away some of the imperviousness. And so that's a good benefit of it as well. We would continue that to the west, but that just happens to be, that's the area of road that was worked on in this part of the project. So should we work on a similar project in the future to the west, we would anticipate doing the same narrowing.
Thank you.
Any other
You took
questions?
the question right out of my mouth because I had a citizen ask me that same thing on Saturday, and I think Laura did a nice job of explaining it. Alderman Chanson?
Yeah, I've been getting some questions. I've been out in my neighborhood knocking on doors and whatnot, and people have been asking me a lot of home rule types of questions, obviously. There's not a whole lot I can say because I don't know. I'm only one vote, and we haven't taken any positions. But the common questions I'm getting are, what are the city's plans if home rule goes away, and what does $3.8 million to $5 million in cuts look like? I don't know how to answer that question, and we haven't really talked about that as a group yet. Is staff having preliminary discussions on what that looks like as we head into budget season?
Absolutely. We certainly have to consider that as we approach the 2019 budget, because things could look very different than how they've looked the last several years. But facing cuts of that nature are not unprecedented in the recent history of the city. The city had to make tremendous cuts to its budget as a result of the economic downturn. And in 2009, took a look at those things and made severe cuts to its budget in 2010. If there was anything that it really cut any and all superfluous expenses out of the budget at that time.
Right, and so
the city's been extremely careful as it tried to return to its previous level of service over the next intervening 9-year period of time. So we would have to make cuts similar to what were made back then, but in a budget that has been cut down to the bone already. So I think that when you take a look at the general fund budget, salaries and pensions make up 73% of the general fund budget. So if you cut 20% out of that, you're definitely going to have to look into cutting into those.
That's people at this point. So it's not unfair to say, if they're asking questions like that, you need to tell me what services you're okay with getting rid of. That's kind of where we're at now. And then that's a discussion for all of us still to have. Okay.
Just a quick point of clarification too, since you brought it up. So I know there's some question on the $1.9 million delta
yes.
of the sales tax that could be reinstated via referendum, correct? But if that was the case, we'd lose the use of that for a year, really,
right?
Correct?
Yes.
So, and that's okay. Just want to make sure.
And just as a point of clarification, and there's going to be there's some really good information about this. As you know, on October 8th, we held a meeting here. There were over 100 people in the audience, and they all wrote down questions for us to answer. We did a presentation in the beginning. BATV was here and recorded the meeting, so whether you want to watch the recorded meeting at mybatv.com, or if you want to go to the city's website and look at our home rule information page, and there you can find all the documents that we had put there before, but now there's also the PowerPoint presentation from the meeting, as well as a document that we handed out that was more information that was contained in the PowerPoint slides, but we also wrote down every single one of the questions that were asked during that meeting. In the next couple of days, we'll release that document. It's 12 pages long. It's a ton of information about home rule. And I've lost my train of thought. You asked me a question about, didn't you?
The 1.9 million?
Yes, the 1.9 million led me to say, you know, it really is 3.8 million is what our home rule tax is, but the 1.9 of that we had actually implemented by referendum as a non-home rule. But once we became home rule, we converted that to being a home rule sales tax, which gave us the advantage that we could refinance those bonds and at a lower interest rate. And it saved us $639,000 in interest charges by doing that. But it has left this open question as to whether the city has the legal right to continue to implement that 1.9% because there was a prior referendum. While we've sought legal opinion on that, and legal opinion says even there's no appellate law on this, so there's not much guidance out there, that there's the possibility of being able to support that. We've been told that the more prudent approach to it would be to put it back to referendum in order to restore it. The other 1.9 that was implemented as a home rule sales tax, for sure we would have to put that to referendum. And, you know, with a referendum, that putting it to referendum doesn't restore it. Mm-hmm. Putting it to referendum is just asking the question. Mm-hmm. So a majority of those have to vote yes, they want to reinstate the tax. Alderman Meitzler?
Just on the note of the forum, which I did receive a lot of positive feedback.
Great.
That if there were certainly many people who watched it, I'd actually be curious for selfish reasons to see how many hits that got. But I know there were also a lot of follow-up questions that have been emailed out as well. Are we sending any sort of turnaround time, or at least acknowledging that the questions have been received and posting the answers online in any way, shape, or form? Because I
this is that 12-page document, all of the questions, whether they were received via email or whether people wrote them down on the note cards that night. And utilizing that note card system for asking the questions worked really well. We were able to get through 100% of the written down questions, and had we done this come up to the podium thing, I don't think we would have gotten through half of them.
So just to clarify, if this individual who is in particular following up with me has not seen a specific reply to their email, then they should check the online document for their question that would be included in that document.
Yes, and just to make sure, if they have forwarded their question to you, if you wanted to forward that to me so that I can double check, I'd be happy to do that.
Great.
Alderman Callahan. Oh, sorry.
That's okay. My concern as we move through and get closer to the election is that we talk about the loss of home rule in very nebulous terms. We will make cuts, but we can't point to anything specific. And my big fear has been through all of this is that people will still go about their daily business and not understand the gravity of what could potentially happen. And so that's why when Dan asks you, can we point to something specific that's going to go away? I would love to be able to say yes. Maybe your street won't get plowed as fast, or maybe there's something tangible that I can tell people that this is where the money's going. And because we haven't really been able to put a number to so many things, it's very hard to come up with that. It's like, will there be flowers in the planters next year? I don't know. I can't say. Will we continue to fund Main Street? I don't know. All of these things are on the table.
Yes.
But our budget covers so much that, it's hard to know because we really haven't had those discussions. So.
Alderman Callahan?
Yeah, I was just going to say, kind of along the lines of having those questions, and actually to your point, it is, I know it's for morale, but it is patently unfair to have the question hanging out there over the heads of our employees without having any idea of what they're going to be waiting for. The economic recession, no one saw that coming, and that came out of the blue. This is a decision that is going to be made by this community. And I absolutely fully support people wanting more say in government. I have never shied away from that, always. But give me what you want to do with it. Who do you want cut? You want police officer Emil Jensen gone? Do you want...
Sorry, Emil. Dan just perked up back there.
Here's the faces of our employees. They're sitting here. They're not paper lining our pockets. These are employees and residents that live and breathe with us and shop in our stores and contribute to this community. Look at your neighbors and tell them you don't want them to have a job, and let us know who you want gone, because that will be the decision that will have to be made. It's not something abstract. These are people's jobs, and if you want us to no longer have the ability to make the decisions without the input, that's fine. But the question is, you are asking to have a greater say. Then have the responsibility of having that say and step up and give us the direction that you're saying you want for the community. Tell us what services you want gone. Tell us what services or what people you want gone in even just the intervening interim of what we will lose in that time frame. It is not about fear. There is a difference between scaring people and being prepared. You board up your houses when a hurricane is coming. That's not being afraid of the hurricane. It is taking those steps. And that's what we need to do. Those are the conversations that we need to be having with people, and it's tough and it's hard.
Well said.
I can't speak for Dave, but we were both here when we went through that. And I will tell you, those meetings were probably the hardest meetings I ever went through on the city council, when you have to sit here and look down and say, that job's gone, and that job's gone. And you know those people. You worked with them. You were here. You dealt with them daily, monthly. That's the hardest thing to do when you're sitting up here. And I don't think anybody out there that signed that petition or put that petition out in front of the public had one thought about what the ramifications were if this passed. I really don't think they realized what will happen. You can pick the number, whether you want to say it's 5, 10, 19%, whatever it is. We're going to cut the budget. And as Laura just said, 70% of that budget is personnel. And unfortunately, if that group gets what they wanted and that passes, that's what's going to happen. And those of us that got elected are going to be the ones that have to make those decisions, not somebody by referendum picking who they want to leave. It's going to be 14 of us.
Alderman Jansen?
What makes it more painful is in the discussions that I've had with my neighbors. I've been out getting, my signatures and whatnot. Out of 10 people that I speak to, 2 of them are like, yeah, I'm going to vote no. One person says I'm going to vote yes. The other 7 people say, what's home rule? I saw something about it on Facebook. What's that mean? I don't think those 7 people really understand where we're at right now. We've got 3 weeks left. I don't know how much more information we can put out there. So that's why I kind of asked, what does $5 million look like? I don't want to hurt the morale of the city because we need everybody that we have. And when you said we cut all the fat, we did cut all the fat. You have said before that we're at this place where we're going to cut muscle. So it's like, do you want your right arm cut off? Or do you want your left arm cut off?
Mm-hmm.
Or do you want to take your leg off? You need to pick because that's where we're at now.
Mm-hmm.
Brown?
I guess I got to make a comment. And it's not, Alan, as you know, I was here at that time, and it's not who are you going to cut necessarily. It's what services are you going to cut to.
Mm-hmm.
When you cut personnel out of the staff that we have, you're going to be cutting services. I think we cut 22 people at that time through retirements and what have you, and what we had to do. And we, I think, gained back 2 or 3. I think we're back to, we're still 19 down from where we were back before the recession. And if you're talking about cutting personnel now, I mean, we wanted to add community development personnel there. We wanted to add police. I think we still all want to do that. We want to add others. We all recognize the need that we have in all the different departments for the work that we need to get done around town. And it's not, we're just going to be cutting services. And cutting services might mean cutting people. But I can tell you, I mean, there's no fat in the budget. How many times have we sat here and argued over $40,000?
Yeah.
You know, there's nothing there to cut. When people say, oh, you can always cut people, you know, you can get by without somebody. Well, we're down. We're already down to where we can't. We can't.
Nope.
Alderman Earl?
Yeah, I remember last year when it got around to budget time and we went through the budget and I posted online. I'm like, hey, you know, well, this stinks, because I thought I was going to come in here and be this hero and find all these places to save money, and there was nothing there. I was shocked. Maybe I shouldn't have been. Maybe I should have been a better citizen prior and really known that, yeah, there's not a lot of room in there. But it's tough. I don't expect 26,000 people to know what we know. That's not a good expectation. But we do have to educate them as much as we can. But there's been posts out there, oh, you know, go and convince all your vendors to charge you less. And it's like, well, some of them, it's just labor that we don't have control over the prevailing wages.
Yeah.
So, you know, go talk to your state senators, because they're the ones that can help with that. And then, you know, try and cut down on office supplies. Oh my gosh. Well, we don't buy $5 million worth of office supplies.
I've
So,
never bought a pen here.
and if we'd have to buy $10 million of office supplies to save $1 million if we cut 10% of it out. So there's this confusion, especially some people look at that, the 157 million or whatever, I don't remember the exact number, of the entire budget.
Right.
But not realizing so much that is
Capital
electric,
projects.
which is paid for by your electric bill, and water, and all those things that are paid for is completely separate funds, and people just don't realize all those details. And it's unfortunate because, yeah, if this passes or if we lose home rule, we're going to be in a really hard situation. And I don't see anything other than saying, hey, we're not going to pave streets for a few years, or we're going to cut a bunch of, have to fire a bunch of people. And it's just like any other business. If it lost 20% of its revenues, you'd be fired.
And losing home rule, you say that if the only way to replace that revenue then is with property tax.
Alderman Lay?
Yeah, I just want to clarify something a minute ago, Laura, and I fully understood what you're saying, but it could have been taken the wrong. You talked about replacing revenue. We would have to go to a referendum, and that would require a yes vote. But the reality is a yes vote on November 6th means that we are losing huge amounts of revenue. A no vote means we will not lose huge amounts of revenue. Is that correct?
That bears repeating 10 times.
Thank you.
Because unfortunately, the way that the statute requires that question to be asked, the answers are not intuitive.
Yeah.
So yes, on November 6th, we lose home rule. No is we would keep home rule.
Alderman O'Brien?
You know, I didn't want to say anything because I don't want to be accused of electioneering, you know, but if just so people are aware of it too, you know, if the yes vote comes to fruition, you know, and 73% of our budget is personnel, and we're going to be cutting back on personnel, and as Dave said, services and things. So it's going to be across the board. And so, you know, we pride ourselves, as we said earlier, on our electric utility. And so when we have people responding you know, and a lot of this stuff is high voltage stuff. It's not just a 110 outlet. So they require certain personnel to be a part of this, and not just one guy going out, but a crew of people. Well, if we have to cut back that crew of people, we're now putting the balance that is left at risk of injury. Okay, if we have to cut back, I believe our police today, right now, are pretty thin. And so when we have the police officers working the midnight shift, they could always use one more guy or two more officers on. But if we cut that back, if something drastic were to happen, I mean, with the amount of weapons going on, the increase in weaponry, you know, we're putting these men at risk. We're putting our firemen at risk, you know, responding to things. So there's real costs in that alone if people get injured just by doing their jobs. And you know, that alone itself, then I would think insurance rates would go up. There's just a whole host of things that just feed into that just keep decimating whatever resources we have.
Alderman Metzler?
Yeah, I just want to go back to something that Alderman Chanzit had said, because I think there's a portion that you left out in the 7, and that's the number of people that are upset about taxes in general.
Here we are.
But not specifically something to do with the city. And I think that that's a bigger underscore that we need to recognize and be prepared for. So to get back to the original point about if this goes through, because I think in all reality, there is a chance that it may go through, that we need to be prepared for what that actually looks like. My ask, though, to people is to please look at your tax bill. If you have questions about your tax bill, ask. Get in contact with people. Understand what goes into the city's portion. Are you cutting from the right places? If you're going to be upset at the right direction.
Alderman Sorrell?
Along those lines, you brought up the point, there's the other side of the conversation we need to have. It's not all cuts. What would it look like from a tax increase standpoint? How much can we go up? How fast can we go up? That side, which I've shied away from that conversation for 5 years, but reality says we need to talk about that as well.
We do, and we've got some history there. So with a tax cap in place, we would be limited to the lesser of 5% or the consumer price index for the prior year. So if you look at how much City Council increased property taxes over the 9 years that we've had home rule, it is less than $100,000 difference than if the tax cap was in place. So there's that. In the 9 years prior to us having home rule, so 2000 to 2009, property taxes actually went up 2.4 million, almost twice as much as they went up in the 9 years after home rule because of the difference in the CPI. Something else is that general obligation bonds, which have already been issued and for which property tax has been pledged as the payment method for those bonds. Currently, because we have alternative revenue under our home rule authority in order to make the payment on those bonds, we abate that portion of the tax levy every year. So that doesn't go on to the homeowner's tax bill. If we lost the alternative revenue to be able to make that bond payment, we would have the authority, tax cap comes into play because it's not a new tax. This is tax that has already been pledged for an existing bond debt. We would not abate that. And what that would look like is about $325 for every $300,000 of home value. So just in the year following loss of home rule, we would either have to pay our bond debt with our reserves or pay our bond debt with the property tax that is backing that bond.
Alderman Chanzen?
So you know I work for a bank, and I have customers that will apply for a credit card knowing that they're going to get laid off in about a month or two, and I don't know that. Are there emergency measures the city could take to take out bonding while we have home rule powers, but not actually draw on them if we don't need them? Is there anything we could do? I mean, granted, that would take a consensus vote here to do something like that, but is there anything on an emergency basis we could do?
You have the power today to issue general obligation bonds or other bonds. However, there are, and Peggy Colby is certainly more of an expert than I am, but you need to use the proceeds of those bonds within 3 years of issuing the bonds. So you have to have a purpose for them. You can't just use it as a rainy day fund. Roman, is that something that
you could? Unfortunately, I can't really answer that question for you tonight, so.
Yeah, no problem.
So you couldn't like open up a quick line of credit kind of thing. So you'd actually have to have projects in line and say, this is what the money's committed to.
Yeah, they want to know what the money is for in order to lend it.
Alderman Callahan?
Yeah, I just want to underscore what Nick had said about those 5 years about the not raising the property taxes. Look at the year that we actually did. Look at all of the compromising and the fighting that we fought for every single dollar that year to, if we were doing the property tax, look at all the other things that went into that grand bargaining for that year. We put off staff. We made sure that those staff didn't come in at that time to save money. We put off the delaying of the
remodeling
and a few other projects. So we delayed other things that now still needed to be done. They don't go away. And we hit our reserves hard by putting those for the rainy day fund for the electric utility out on the storm bank. That was all the same year that we said, all right, well, if we are really going to do the property taxes for this year, look at what we did on trying to find all those ways that it was the last resort. We could have done that all the other years. And what would happen going forward is the lazy way out. It's what's the max that we can do on property taxes? We're done. There's no more arguing, fighting, trying to figure it out because you're just going to go, that's all it is. That's what it is. Turn the lights off. Let's go home. It'd make our jobs a lot easier because there's no creativity. There's no thinking. There's no give. There's no take. There's no trying to figure out the best thing. You're on autopilot at that point. Property tax increase, done. That's it. And that's what everyone has said for years. Do something about the property taxes. Do something about the property taxes. We hadn't had one until last year for a reason, and we made sure it was the last resort.
You know, I go to a lot of meetings with other mayors, and quite honestly, I have a lot of them ask me how Batavia can run itself on the property tax rate that we have. And I'm not going to start naming other towns here because I don't want to, I only should be concerned about myself. But there are towns very nearby us that have city property tax rates that are probably double or triple what are in the city of Batavia. I mean, ours is in the 70 cents range. There are some very nearby us that are over $2 for the city share of the property tax bill. And I have a lot of them say, whatever your city council's doing up there, we ought to come and follow your lead because you've really been able to keep things under control. And we've got big numbers here in our towns that are much higher than what you have in Batavia. So, you know, I have people talk to me all the time about property tax, and I can certainly understand what they're talking about. But if you throw us all on the sheet and compare Batavia to a whole bunch of other folks in the area here, you're going to find Batavia's down there pretty low on the page. Alderman Savati?
One last thing from me. The ironic thing about this whole thing is that we as a council are elected by our constituents to voice our opinions over what we think is best for this community. And in this particular situation, we have a group of people that want us to fight with our hands tied behind our backs. And we're not allowed to say what we think about this particular piece of, this referendum. There's the irony in this whole thing. Because if we say something, if we say what we want, what we think is best, we're called out for electioneering. And I think that's crap. I really do. We are all here weekly because we want to do what's best for this community. We have a passion for this community. We pay taxes in this community. If people think we want to jack up taxes, we got to pay them. So if you think we're sitting in a white castle and lining our pockets, it's not true. We're trying to do what's best for this town and the people we love in this community, period. My hands are free. I'm running for office. I've got stuff on my website. People can go check it out.
Alderman Stark.
I just wanted to mention, one of the few cities in the state of Illinois who had home rule and then repealed it due to a referendum, recently had an article published in their local paper about how they will run their reserves down to zero in the very short term because they have no way to recoup the tax money they lost by losing home rule. They just have not been able to figure out a way to get money back into their coffers. So any momentum they had moving forward came to a grinding halt, and now they're going backwards, which is a huge fear of mine with Batavia, because I look around and I see momentum throughout the entire city, and I worry that suddenly it will come to a grinding halt, and where we've been able to make some progress in inroads into repairs or total upgrades, we'll be just trying to patch to maintain, and that's very scary to me. So,
Alderman Wolf.
One more thing, as Scott mentioned earlier, I am also now running for office. So not that I had a filter before, but the muzzle may be off now. So look out.
And this one's a lame duck, so we got the muzzle off.
I am
can
not
say
worried
whatever
about
I want.
So if we exercise our democratic rights.
I have enough signatures, so I'm
okay. Laura, you have anything else?
No, I do not. We have an executive session.
Right. Okay, let's go to committee reports. Alderman Brown, everything on community development?
No report to announce, Your Honor, but I do have a few meetings to announce. The committee of the whole meeting for tomorrow evening is canceled, but the Plan Commission for Wednesday, October 17th is scheduled. That'll start at 7 p.m. Historic Preservation is scheduled for October 22nd at 5:30 p.m., and then the next committee of the whole meeting will be October 23rd at 7 p.m. So I have.
Okay, Government Services, Alderman Atek.
We do not have anything for the next 3 weeks scheduled at this time.
Okay. City Services, Alderman Wolf.
The only thing I have is a reminder for everybody that as brush pickup and leaf pickup starts again this fall, make sure to keep everything on the curb, up behind the curb, not out in the street. Keep the drains clean, and just be prepared for the end of fall and moving into winter.
Public Utilities, Alderman O'Brien.
There's nothing on the agenda for public utilities for the next couple of weeks.
Okay. All right. Other business? We have any other business tonight? Alderman Metzler?
Just one item. This is probably best for Scott, I guess. Public notice put out about hearing on 17th, Wednesday of this week, for 3 parcels that are going to be rezoned. Number of questions have been brought up because, to me at least, because one of the 3 is a stone's throw from my home. In particular, the questions that I was getting asked were, what was the impetus for this change? What is the benefit to the city? If there's anything with, because it's going to parks and open space, do we realize any additional, whatever it is, benefits? And what does it mean to the tax bill?
Yeah, what this is this is a project that we do as we have time and ability to do so with the Plan Commission to rezone certain properties. Sometimes they're city-owned, sometimes they're not city-owned, to put them in zoning classifications that either meet the comprehensive plan or meet the trend of development and what's happening in the community. So in this case, These are all city-owned properties. They're all being used for detention. And right now, they're in various zoning districts. And what we do is we then propose to change the zoning on those to Parks and Open Space District so that it more reflects the actual use of the property as opposed to residential. So not that we're ever planning on selling the property, but if we keep it in the Parks and Open Space District, it would limit the use of that property to just things that are in the Parks and Open Space District, which is a much more restrictive district than the residential districts that are there. So it shouldn't have any effect on the taxes at all because the properties are tax exempt. The properties that are adjacent, it's already an existing use as a detention basin, so there should be no effect on their taxes either. And we're not proposing to make any changes to any of those properties. And that's pretty much the summary of why we're doing it.
Thank you.
Anybody else? Under the mayor's report, I didn't get a chance to get it out today, but I'm going to be sending out an email to all of you probably tomorrow. There was a very interesting article published yesterday in the Chicago Sun-Times about how the whole world of recycling is drying up. And the ability to have free recycling, such as we now enjoy in Batavia, may be short-lived. And I've heard this, I was at a mayor's meeting last week in Chicago, and this was a significant concern to several of our area mayors that have been talking to their trash collection companies who are saying that the market's not there for the paper, the glass, the bottles, the plastic, and as a result that the recycling company or the garbage collector or the recycling company may be having to lay new charges on their residents, and it'll probably be on some kind of a sticker fee or something. I mean, at a time when we're looking at, having to face all kinds of financial questions, this is not a good time for this to be occurring. But I'll send you the article. It's apparently there used to be a lot of our stuff all over there sent to China, and China has now kind of terminated the activity, and there's no place for a lot of this stuff to go, so the bottles and the paper and the glass and the plastic is all just laying someplace with no place to go. And so most of them say they can't take it free anymore. So obviously we've got a lot of citizens that are dedicated recyclers and want to do stuff the right way and look out for the environment. We have a very good, in my opinion, environmental commission that's been appointed by myself and approved by all of you, and they do some very interesting things, but they may find themselves challenged here pretty quickly if, in fact, we're suddenly told that anything you put in the recycling bin is going to have some kind of a sticker charge to it or whatever it's going to have to be. So I just want you all to be educated about this because there was quite a piece in the Sun-Times about it yesterday. So I'll try to get it out to you tomorrow. It'll be some kind of a scan thing that you'll get because I'm going to have to use the existing newspaper article and we'll scan it and send it out to you. So that's all I'll talk about tonight. No good news there.
Your Honor.
Alderman.
I just remembered one more thing. When we said earlier that the meeting about home rule will be up on BATV, to be fair to what else was out there, there will also be the videotape that was done for the B4RG program that they had up at the library, and their added tape for what wasn't covered by the student volunteer that recorded that meeting. So there are two of those, and then also when the League of Women Voters does debate later this month, that will also be put together, and then all three of those will try and be played right before the election so people will have a chance to compare all what's been put out to the public.
That's next week.
The 28th, maybe? 21st?
When's the League of Women Voters meeting?
I think it's
I'm checking it right now, but I believe it's the 21st.
Yeah, it was like 4 to 6 or something on.
Yeah, at the
21st is a Sunday.
Right, I think it's a Sunday.
Yeah, they're having trouble getting a venue.
Venue.
Where's it going to be?
I think at Shannon Hall.
Yeah, the Eastside Community Center.
Oh. I don't think anybody asked if they could have the council chambers as too small in their opinion.
I think that's what they wanted. They wanted to have a bigger venue.
All right. I'd entertain a motion to enter executive session for the purpose of discussing review of executive session minutes.
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Alderman Brown, second by Alderman Stark. Clerk, call the roll.
Brown,
Aye.
Rosado.
Aye.
Atack.
Aye.
Stark.
Aye.
Chansett. Wolf.
Aye.
Salvati.
Aye.
O'Brien.
Aye.
Callahan.
Aye.
Meitzler.
Aye.
Malay.
Aye.
Ewer.
Aye.
Saron.
Aye.
McFadden.
Aye.
Motion's approved.